Hey everybody, and welcome to Prop Live, this weekly show where we take your prop and costume making questions and answer them. This week, it's just me. It's all me. Because we've been working really hard to finish up a project. You can see it in the background behind me there. And getting prepared for San Diego Comic-Con. So I didn't get a guest this week. It's just me. But you guys are here. I'm here. You've got questions. And I am fully prepared to answer them. But before we get into the meat of it, looking at my notes here, a couple things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the thing I've been working on. That's the master main body piece for the District 9 rifle that I've been working on oh so diligently. It's it's going to be a 4-part series. 2 parts of that series are out right now. If you go to tested.com, you can see a couple of write-ups on it. Here's part 2. Talking about turning pieces on a lathe. I learned that lathing is not a word. I got the whole thing there. I got 2 videos out already on my old YouTube channel, all about working on this thing. I'm working on the remaining 2 videos that'll be released in the next week or 2 leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, which is coming up. So definitely go check those out. We'll have a link to all of those in the show notes. And speaking of San Diego Comic-Con, I'm going there, which is awesome. It's going to be really cool. I'll bring some costumes. I'll bring that thing that I'm working on, that District 9 rifle. Maybe that'll show up. Maybe some other things will show up. Who knows? It'll be crazy. I will definitely be at Comic-Con. I'll be there dressing up. And I will also be at, speaking of Tested, they're putting on a party like they did last year. This one's called their Cinephile one. Let's see here. It's Friday. Well, I'll have a link to this in the show notes so you guys can go check it out. But basically Friday at a bar outside of the actual convention, they have this party. And you can RSVP. I believe it's free. It's open to anyone 21 and older. And it should be a good time. They did it, like I said, they did it last year, and last year I didn't go to Comic-Con. I was like, it's not that big a deal. And then they put this party on, and I was like, damn it, I wish I had gone. So this year I made it a quest of mine to make sure I got to go to that party, and of course the rest of Comic-Con, which should be really fun. And I'm hoping I get to see some of you guys there. What else? That's about it. There's not a whole lot new going on in my world except for doing this auto rifle. That's the only thing that I've been working on lately. It is, by the way, it is done. But I can't show you yet. We're going to do a big reveal at Comic-Con. And of course, I am working on the videos. The next video coming out is going to be all about doing the matrix mold for the big guy behind me. I just finished editing it. It's going to go up on Monday, I believe. And it's a doozy. There's a lot of information in there. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears in there. Me and Brittany, my amazing wife, knocked that thing out. And I'm pretty happy with it. So look forward to that. Otherwise, I don't really see any reason why we should hesitate. Oh, let's talk about our patrons real quick. Patreon.com/punishedprops. You guys have come out and supported the show because you're amazing. Thank you guys so much. We have 50 patrons, which is extraordinary. We hit our milestone, so we're going to be doing more live from the shop live stream, so look forward to that. If you guys are watching, if you're new to the show and you want to support it a little bit, then feel free to go check out patreon.com/punishedprops. Throw a little scratch our way to help make this show better. That's it. That's all I got. I'm ready for your questions. I am here. I am caffeinated. Yeah. We got the chat going on. You see the chat behind me. You guys are awesome. Always showing up. People are showing up early too. So at punishedprops.com/live, you can see how to join the chat if you want to go there and chat with other makers. It's a good place for it. So there you go. That's it. Let's take your questions. Let's start with this question here from Suzanne. This Suzanne wants to know, will you eventually come to Salt Lake Comic-Con again? Yes, totally. I love Salt Lake City. I have lots of friends there. Salt Lake Comic-Con was really cool. I haven't planned for it this year. I don't know when it is. Let's see. Salt Lake Comic-Con 2015. Let's see, when are they having that? Master schedule. I don't know. Apparently, wait, there's a countdown. There's some kind of countdown. How about just the main website? The main website should have the info on it right there. Check it out. Salt Lake Comic Con. They got this flashy, fancy pants website that takes forever to load on my poor little computer. And September 24th through 26th. So that's a good amount of time after Dragon Con. I should be able to find some time to head out there for sure. See about that. But I definitely want to go back. I had a lot of fun last year. So hopefully I'll be there. Hopefully I'll see Suzanne there. We'll high five. It'll be awesome. Okay. This next one, by the way, if you're watching live and you go to the event page for this video, there's a Q&A app. You can submit your questions there that will show up on my screen. You can't see it, but they're right there on my screen. And then I can select your questions and answer them. This first one from the Q&A app comes from Nate. He says he's wondering, what is a matrix mold? Well, you see, the world we're living in isn't really the real world. We're inside the matrix. It's a computer program. No, that's not it. Although that may be true. You never know. A matrix mold is a lot like a box mold. With a box mold, you build a box, you put your piece in it in clay, you pour in silicone, flip it over, pour in silicone, or remove the clay, pour in silicone on the other side. You make a two-part mold that way. A matrix mold is like that, but instead of just making a box, you make a shell around your entire piece that is a uniform thickness away from the master, so that when you pour the silicone in, you have a nice uniform silicone thing instead of a lot of wasted space with the box mold. It takes a lot longer to do it that way, but you get a better mold out of it and you use a lot less silicone, which is good because silicone can get pretty expensive. That is a very sort of glossed over explanation of what a matrix mold is, but it takes a lot longer, but it makes a much better product. And when I have a video out on Monday all about how I made the matrix mold for that guy, you'll get to see all about it. So look forward to that. Matrix mold. I know Kung Fu. All right, this next one here comes from our regular Fearless Facade. He says, with your District 9 project all wrapped up, I was wondering how you first met the guys over at Tested. Do you have any tips on getting your work noticed by big name clients such as them? It's really hard to follow that path backwards, but I think the way it really kind of got started was like 3 or 4 years ago. I have lots of friends in the podcasting community, and friends of mine did a video podcast on the Twit network called Game On. It was short-lived. It was really fun. And they came to me to get props made for their set. And I said, I'll make you some props for free if you let me be on the show. And they said yes, which was cool. So I flew to San Francisco, did the show. In fact, we'll have a link. We'll have a link to this Game On episode in the show notes. It's a really great blast from the past. This was right before I quit my day job, and it was really, really fun. And it's me being awkward on camera, which is totally different because I'm not awkward on camera anymore, ever, really. Anyway, they know, my friends Brian and Veronica who did that show, they know Gary Whitta, who's a writer, who's done, he wrote Book of Eli and a whole bunch of other stuff. He's writing some new Star Wars stuff. And he wanted to get Mass Effect armor made, and they knew me, so they connected me to Gary. And I never ended up making armor for him, but I met him, and he does a podcast with the guys at Tested, so I kind of got introduced to them through that. And that's networking. That's really doing projects, helping people out, offering to help people, getting to know people and the people they know. And again, just being willing to help people out. That's kind of how most of my connections have happened. A lot of the podcasting people I met because Scott Johnson, who runs the Frog Pants network of podcasts, they wanted a photographer for their Nerdtacular event, and I had never met any of them before, but I'm a photographer, so I volunteered to fly out under my own dime and shoot photos of their event for them, and I did that for a couple of years and made a whole bunch of friends while I was there. And since then, I've become really good friends with a lot of people in that community, which has turned, that's what networking is, but it's when you approach it as being a person who is with a skill set who's willing to be helpful, it's a lot more like doing favors for your friends or helping people out. And when people when the right people appreciate the help that you give them, they may want to help you out, or at least be aware of your talents and know other people that they know who may need those talents. So there you go. There is networking in a nutshell, and that's kind of how I got to meet the guys at Tested. As far as this current project, I was down in San Francisco for Big Wow Comic Fest, and I was going to be there for a couple days anyway. And I said, "Hey, Tested guys, want to get together and get lunch or something?" They said, "Sure." And while I was there, I pitched them the idea for this project, and they said yes. And we got Smooth on board. That's kind of how the whole thing went. But again, that's the sort of thing where I really had to provide the initiative. I had to pitch the idea. So there you go. Good luck. Start being helpful. Just be a helpful person. Thank you, Fearless Facade. All right, this next one comes from Danae. Yep. Got any tips for spray painting with limited space? Containing the colored spray is a problem. It's really, I mean, getting outside is really the best solution. You probably could build a spray booth in a small room near a window with a fan. It's still gonna get messy. Like we have a spray booth in our shop it's in the basement. We've cordoned off an area over there with plastic sheeting so that you can't, like a tarp, so that spray and vapor doesn't get into the rest of the shop. And then there's a window there that's got a big fan in it that's venting everything outside. But that entire area is a mess. It's just really, really messy. So you may have an area that you can just cover it in like a tarp, a fan, by a window. But I would not recommend doing that in like an apartment unless it's very small projects where an appropriate respirator, totally. But if you can, just take the project outside. And especially right now when it's really warm out here in Seattle, it's dry and it's warm out. Spray paint will dry super fast outside. A lot of the stuff the painting we've been doing for this gun project has been spray painted outside. In fact, I made the hanger. I have to build a new hanging rack because mine's really flimsy. So this gun is huge and really heavy, and it wouldn't hold that. The hanging rack was so flimsy. So I just like put some rope on a tree and just hung the gun up on a tree. It's like this really weird space gun wind chime. So there you go. There's some tips for working spray painting in limited space. Good luck. All right, this next one here comes from Juan. He says, "Do you have any tips for moving large props or armor for events across state lines? How do you deal with the safety of your pieces during travel?" Yeah. So part of it is like the foam armor I've built. I try and build it so that if it gets mashed into a suitcase or whatever, it's going to be okay. What was it? Destiny armor I made. I put an Epsilon coating on the outside. It's a rigid shell. I didn't put enough on that it would be really durable, and it's thin enough where if it gets flexed a little bit, it'll crack. So that's a bummer. I would rather have either the bare foam, like with my Mass Effect armor, which is you can't damage that. It's really flexible and it won't crack or anything, or something like latex rubber that's super flexible and it won't bend or tear either. As far as props and everything, like if you're traveling with props, I try not to travel with big props. I've done it a couple times. I had a guitar case that I gutted and I put a big rifle in. That worked out really well. I put down some foam, some squishy foam, some upholstery foam, and then I put the gun in and I clamshelled it closed in a guitar case, and that actually worked really, really well. And I felt like El Mariachi, which is pretty cool. Other than that, just getting good at packing stuff is really kind of the trick. You can if you're gonna fly, you could even like get a box, so long as it's the right size, and package your prop in that box really, really well, and just check that. And they'll probably make you sign a thing that says that's not real luggage. If your thing gets damaged, it's not our fault. You're like, yeah, whatever. I packed it really well. It'll be fine. They may open it. Just be aware of that. Or get get an actual gun case. People travel with gun cases. My buddy Dan did that when we went to San Jose. He had guns for his props, so he got a real rifle case. It's got foam in there, clamshells closed. Put all the stuff in there, and he's able to fly with it, no problem. Yeah, so there's some tips for you. Good luck, Juan. All right, here's another one from Nate. Any tips for vacuum forming? I haven't actually done very much vacuum forming. I don't have my own here. My buddy Mario has one though, and he lives kind of nearby, so I'll go use his whenever I need it. 1 second. Oh, I'm getting in the chat. Din is like Renee. The name pronunciation, which I slaughter all the time. The Din, it's like Renee only with a D. Dene. Nailed it. All right, cool. Thank you. Anyway, vacuum forming. Yeah, I mean, you kind of got to build your own vacuum form table, and I've mentioned this a couple times before. But Fawn Davis has a great video on vacuum forming. It's over on the Stan Winston School video. You got to buy it, but it is totally worth it. I want to say it's like 30 or 40 bucks for the video. Again, super duper worth it. If you're going to build a vacuum form table, that's good knowledge to know. And you don't need a lot of materials. I think he built his out of a toaster. So, build your own vacuum table, and you kind of got to just use it a bit to understand how the physics of it work. Because you can get the spider webbing if your piece is too tall, or if it's the way you place it on the surface can affect how it pops out. So you really kind of got to just buy a bunch of plastic and try it out and see how it goes. And then just to see what other sort of vacuum forming projects other people have worked on. See what it's really capable of. But again, if you have your own table and you start cranking it out, you'll learn pretty fast what it's capable of. I hope you try though, Nate. Go do some vacuum forming. It's pretty cool. All right, next one comes from Sanit, who is way over in New Zealand, but he's coming to PAX at Dragon Con. All right, he's wondering about bringing an MDF Erebor dwarf axe. Would he be let in or not? Should he make an EVA foam one just in case? You got to check what the weapons policy is of different conventions. I know that Dragon Con seems to be pretty lax about it. PAX, I'm not really sure. I know New York Comic Con, either last year or the previous year, had a weapons policy that basically said, if it's not foam, don't bring it. They don't want any no risk whatsoever. They want just squishy foam things. I would say just to be safe, for A, it's going to be lighter if you make it out of EVA. B, it's safer to travel with, and definitely convention safe. So if you're going to make one anyway, make it out of EVA, and then it'll be nice and safe. He's also making EVA foam guns for his Warlock, so that should be all good. That is correct. EVA foam. And I'll tell you what, too. So many of my props that I've built over the years have been built out of MDF or plastic, and they're really heavy, and then I'll mold and cast them out of a rigid plastic. Again, they're heavy. They look great. They hold up. If you hold it really close, all that wonderful detail. But more and more, when I go to a convention, I want to bring a lightweight foam prop so that if I lose it, or if I drop it, or if, accidentally, let's say, knock someone in the face with it, who knows? Things can get crazy at a convention. Everything's going to be fine. So for something I'm going to carry around at a convention, I would rather have a lightweight foam prop if I can. There you go. Looking forward to seeing you there, man. All righty. Another regular here, it's Kiwi, wants to know, any interesting storage solutions? I'm trying to maximize space in my teeny tiny workshop and be really efficient with my shelf and wall space. I will tell you this. The guys that tested, again, they do a weekly podcast with Adam Savage called the Adam Savage Project. If you go to YouTube, which I'm about to do right now, and you go to their channel, I think the tested channel, here we go. And I believe they have, the podcast has its own podcast RSS feed, but on the YouTube channel, they have a playlist. Yeah, there it is. They have, something about coffee. There you go. Still untitled. The Adam Savage Project. 116 videos. This is really great. And the most the previous episode they just did is on shop storage schemes. Now, if you dig through this list, they have several of these. This is the thing that Adam talks about a lot: shop storage or tool storage, being able to retrieve stuff right away so you know where everything is. A lot of really great tips there. I recommend you go through that whole field. All of those things are worth listening to. They're about a half hour each, and a handful of them are specific to how he organizes his shop. So I recommend you go check those out. We'll have a link to the playlist in the show notes, which I just added. There you go. So go check those out. Other than that, kind of hard to, I don't know, maximizing space. It really just depends on the things that you use the most, the materials you use the most, and how can they be stored. Floor mats are actually kind of easy. They're nice and flat. You can put them in closets. You could even have hanging storage. They're not very heavy, so you could hang them from the ceiling by anchoring, I don't know, wires or something to the ceiling, or just get shelves, like lots of shelving that you can tuck away to organize your stuff. I think organization, and when you read a lot or listen to a lot of those things with Adam Savage, organization and shop maintenance and stuff is a very personal thing. It really depends on how you like to work. But it's good that you're considering that. It's good that you're thinking about that. So good luck. Okay, then. Let's see, that's the last of the questions I have from earlier today. Got a couple more on the Q&A app. If you folks, again, if you're watching live and you want to get your question answered, go to the Q&A app in the Google event Hangout page thing, and you can submit your questions there, just like Patrick did. This one here, he says, "Hey, Bill, have you ever seen or tried having vessels of liquid incorporated into a prop? I ask as I'm going to try that with my rheoscopic fluid." Pretty gold stuff, he tweeted to me. Yeah, he showed me that it was a jar of liquid that looked like it wouldn't want to mix together all the way, so it had this cool swirly gold thing going on. I've never tried that. A couple things with liquid when it comes to costumes that are issues. One, liquid tends to get heavy fast. So if you're going to have, let's say, a cylinder, or let's say this peanut container full of liquid, you might fill it with the liquid, but have only about a 1/4 inch thick worth of liquid and submerge something in there to take up like a balloon or something. Or if you have a tube shape, maybe a smaller tube in the middle of it, so that it's not actually full of liquid, because weight can become an issue very quickly when you're using a lot of liquid. And secondly, if that liquid starts to leak, it's bad news all around for everyone involved. Because when you're on the convention floor, if something breaks on your costume and it falls off, you pick it up, go back, glue it back together. No big deal, right? But what if you spring a leak and you just start shooting liquid off the side of you? That becomes a problem. So I would do lots of testing. I would try and keep the weight down any way you can, and make sure that thing is sealed like really, really well. And walk around with it. Don't build it, glue it together, and then go to the convention right away. Like, test that before you really test it on the floor of a convention. But good luck. I mean, it looks really neat. And there's a lot of stuff you can only really do by using liquid. All right. Oh, Britt also added in the chat here, liquid in a prop may freak out on the plane while you're flying. Yeah. If your stuff is in, and funny story too that Brittany would know about. When your stuff is in your luggage and it's checked, it goes into the cargo hold of a plane, and that cargo hold is not pressurized like the cabin is. So when you go up in the air, your stuff gets subjected to lower pressure, and liquid and compressed things can react to that in catastrophic ways. For example, I believe it was the first year we went to Dragon Con, we had some hairspray in our luggage, and it was not in a bag or anything. Any liquid things that you're traveling with, by the way, put them in a zip top bag before you put it in your luggage. The spray, the hairspray went rogue in our luggage and just sprayed everything. Mostly, I think a bathing suit took the brunt of the explosion. But just know that that can happen, especially if you're traveling with any sort of fluids for your costume. All right. Cool. Good luck, Patrick, with all your cool liquid things. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. People are asking about, in the chat, are asking about the finished version of this gun. Like I said, it is all done, but we're doing a big reveal at San Diego Comic-Con with the Test It guys. So a little bit of a build up, a little bit of a tease here and there. Actually, I posted. Yeah, I'll show this really quick because I'm pretty proud of it. Let's see, Facebook. I posted a teaser photo. I've got this little quarter scale version of the gun. That's neat. And I was able to use it as a reference for the build, which was really super handy. And there it is. So I took this photo. That's the little quarter scale gun in the foreground. So it's like, I don't know, 7 inches long. And in the background is the full scale guy. But it's, you know, it's out of focus. It's all sneaky like. So a little bit of a tease, I know. But you guys will get to see it in like a week or so. All right, cool. Next one here comes from my buddy Alex. Hey, Alex. He says, what are your suggestions for making a gladiator-style chest piece out of EVA? So I'm thinking like the faux pecs and abs, solid metal type thing. He says, especially when it needs to be longer than a 2 foot by 2 foot sheet would allow. Maybe look into a different source of foam. Maybe get a roll of L200. Foammart.com, I believe, is the place to get that now. They no longer sell it on Amazon. They did that for like a week. I got some, but now they don't anymore. Also, actually, Alex, if you're in this area sometime soon, if you go up to the Friendly Foam Mart Friendly Foam store up in Bellevue, they have the same stuff. It's called L20. It's the same thing. You can get it in different thicknesses. So you can get a big roll of foam. And then for that, you may actually have to do something similar to vacuum forming. In fact, my buddy David over at Evil Effects, he did something similar to this a number of years ago, doing Mass Effect armor to vacuum form a breast shape on some lady Mass Effect armor. In fact, I'll find a link for that and throw it in the show notes. That was quite a while ago. But he did some sort of faux vacuum forming. He didn't use a vacuum. It was more just like heat forming on top of a shape. I would also say you can get a lot of that type because gladiator armor is pretty ubiquitous. You can get a lot of that sort of stuff from, from just like a costume store. Like they should have those already. So even if you're going to build foam over the top of it, you could use that as a base to get your base shape, either heat form it over that or just glue it straight to that piece. But no need to reinvent the wheel. Gladiator armor is pretty common at like normal costume shops or Halloween stores. So there you go. There's a handful of things for you to try. But actually, next time you're up in the Seattle area, Alex, definitely go to the Friendly Foam store. They're cool. Okay, it's Danae, like Renee. And she wants to know, what are you working on right now? And what event is it for apart from the District 9 gun? Now that guy's done, I have a handful of commissioned stuff that I really just need to mop up. Things that I haven't finished completely. I have a bunch of space gun things. I got to laser cut a bunch of stuff. My laser's acting up, so I have to fix my laser. And I have a sword. There's a sword right there, boop, right behind me. So I got to finish that guy up. That's on the docket. That's from League of Legends. That seems right. What else? Actually, I have a list right here of all the things I need to finish. It's a really long list. Britt's working on a I have a Hearthstone box that's coming up, but Britt's working on that bleach mask. If you guys seen recently, Brittany posting photos of that, and a handful of other stuff here. But yeah, I got a whole bunch of projects. And of course, I want to build a new costume for Dragon Con, or like 5 of them, because that's how I roll. But there you go. A lot of little things that kind of I just got to mop up here in the next couple of months for sure. All right, this next one from one of our regulars. Don't try this at home. Hey, Bill, any good tutorials or tips on the process of going from block form to having a large 8-sided jewel? It's all nice and true. I had to do this and thought nothing of it, but when the time came, it was hard. Starting out at a block of wood, or staring at a block of wood for an hour. You know what? You may even consider, if you're any good at 3D modeling. Well, I'm filthy. I thought I showered today. If you're any good at 3D modeling, that's something that Pepakura might be really good for, to get your base shape. Other than that, it sounds like a bandsaw would be really handy for that, because you could set it to an angle and then cut all your facets that way. 8-sided jewel. Yeah. That's something where I would personally would go see if that exists already. A lot of people make like fake jewel things for costumes or for fun. I wonder if I go to Amazon and look up 8-sided jewel. Let's see what shows up. Sometimes you'd be really surprised. Boop, 8-sided jewel. No. Well, some jewelry, some little jewelry things. Yeah, keep an ear to the ground. But other than that, a bandsaw for cutting your wood block down to rough shape, and then lots of sanding and filing, and keeping it true, so to speak, keeping it symmetrical and all that. That's just going to be a lot of trial and error, a lot of patience, I think. So good luck with that, because that seems like an uphill battle. Definitely see if someone's already made one of those, or 3D model it for Pepakura, 3D model it and get it 3D printed. That would be another great way to do it. That's probably the way I would go. Okay, this one here is from SciAddict. Do you know what glue would be best for gluing foam to plastic? Oh, I love these questions, because this is my favorite website. Ready? Thistothat.com. Check this out. All right, go to thistothat.com. Attach this. So we said foam. Well, it's styrofoam. Again, what example of foam you are talking about matters. To plastic. So this is for styrofoam to plastic. They recommend epoxy or something fast. You could probably use hot glue. So there's a couple options. Again, if your foam, if it's EVA foam, that's going to be something different. If it's insulation foam, tool for carving EVA foam. What is this? Okay, if it's EVA foam and you're attaching it to plastic, hot glue actually works pretty well for that sort of thing. So I might do that. And then Sai also wants to know, do you know what hand tool is best for carving EVA foam? I have one of these guys here. This is pretty handy. This is just a curved carving knife. I think I got it at Harbor Freight. That's pretty handy. Keep it sharp. Keep sharpening it, or have lots of replacement blades. Or even like this, just these big extendo blades. I actually just ordered more of these today, these long extending knives, because then you can make long cuts through your foam. But also like a Dremel or a drum sanding bit and like a belt sander. You can do a lot of shaping, a lot of sculpting with that on your EVA foam. So there's a couple of things for you to try. What hand tool? Hand tool, I would go with a really, really sharp knife, definitely. There you go. Let's see, in the chat here, Frodan wants to know, can you tell us about the bleach mask? Yeah, Brittany's been working on that really, really hard. The original was 3D modeled. She 3D modeled it because she is a wizard with Maya. And then she was able to scale it, print it out using Pepakura Designer, and then piece it together. That main piece got fiberglass, so it's nice and rigid. And then she's been fairing it, meaning filling it out with Bondo and sanding it down so it's nice and smooth. You get a nice organic, smooth shape that way. Right now, it's at that stage. It's sort of at the refinement stage. A lot more filling and sanding to go. And then we'll mold the whole thing and cast a rigid copy of it for the final. It'll be super pretty and nice. And that's what's going on with the bleach mask. It's got separate pieces. It's got separate horns. Those will be molded and cast separately. It's got the top bucket part, and then the lower jaw is also separate so that it can be hinged. The goal being to be able to open and close the mouth while you're wearing it, which I think would be super neat. That was from Frodan in the chat. All right. Next question comes from Don't Try This at Home. He was using a table saw for all of his angles and dimensions required. This is, again, talking about that jewel. Boy, I went to do it. It just didn't look possible. I built 3 or 4 jigs and he's still not happy. What phase of a project is the most time and labor intensive for you? Actually, with this last project here, not counting the matrix mold, that took like 4 freaking days. The pre-build design phase took a lot longer than I thought. I spent 2 or 3 days in Google SketchUp building and rebuilding a lot of the pieces and planning all the different layers. But I'll tell you what, getting it knocked out that way and having perfect template pieces ready to go meant tons less heartache later on when I was actually building the thing. Yeah, so that is really, really time intensive. But if you do it properly, if you design and sort of build your project in SketchUp or on your blueprints or on paper before you even go buy your material, saves so much trouble later on. But it is, like I said, really, really time intensive. But worth it. Put in the time, you guys. Put in the time. There you go. That's all the questions we have in the Q&A app right now. If you have one, make sure you submit it over there. We still have about 20 minutes left. And I am still ready to answer your questions. We have lots of fun goodness going on in the chat room right now. Actually, here, while I have a moment, I'm going to go grab the master right there, and I'll show it off for you guys. So we did the, I did a video on how I built all of this, but I didn't quite, it was pretty quick, the video, because YouTube likes your nice, short, digestible chunks of video. But this guy here is mostly MDF and a little bit of styrene plastic. And a lot of it was done with pretty normal power tools like my bandsaw, drill press, scroll saw, and sanding tools. So don't think you got to have like a 3D printer or a laser cutter or a CNC mill to build this stuff. Here we go. We got a question from Jackie. Jackie wants to know, do you ever airbrush your tiny details or is that all hand painting? My Harbor Freight compressor died in my super humid area, and I'm finding it insanely time-consuming to hand detail the distressing. Certain things that I use the airbrushing for usually is if there's a certain paint I want to use, and it's airbrush only. So I have some lacquers, these metallizer lacquers that Tester makes that are amazing. They're airbrush only. And if I'm applying any of the paints I like, if I'm applying them, and I want to cover a lot of area and it doesn't come in a spray paint can, I'll put it in my airbrush. Or I have an HVLP sprayer, similar thing. I'll put a bunch of paint in that and spray it on. The other reason why I'll use an airbrush is if I need a gradient. A good example is I built a rebuilt Nerf Hammershot. And in fact, there's a video for that. You can go check it out. And the end of it, I wanted it to look all like metal, but like blued, like the end of an exhaust pipe on a car. So I put some transparent blue acrylic paint in my airbrush and just hit it along the edge, and it gave it a gradient. It feathered the blue off down the barrel. Kind of the only way to do that. It's hard to achieve that look with hand brushing. Not saying it's impossible, but it's really handy having that airbrush for it. A lot of the distressing that I do, a lot of the weathering, mostly just adding dirt and grime to my gun, that's all done with a brush. I'll just brush a bunch of paint on, and then actually most of the work is done with a paper towel or a sponge where I'm removing it, removing as much as I want to keep it, make it look as dirty or as clean as I want. So there you go. Everything is a handful of stuff. For this particular gun, I think I only use the airbrush for, there's this tube on the top of it, and it's kind of this metallic looking thing, and I wanted to use those metallic lacquers. So I used the airbrush for that. but that was the only reason why. Everything else was a spray paint or hand brushed. Okay, here we go. Emily wants to know, do this cast, is it, or for this cast, I guess for this guy, this is the master, so this is all MDF, but the casting, she wants to know, is it all urethane or do you put filler in it? It's urethane, but I put some insulation foam blocks in there before I filled it up. Similar, I did a video actually a while ago with my friend Jessica Nigri where I showed how I put a block of insulation foam in a casting to save a little bit of space and weight in there. We'll have a link to that video in the description. Similar process, but it is a lot of, I didn't mix any filler in with the resin. I just poured resin in there. You can get different resins, resin fillers, I should say. Smooth On sells a line of products called Urafil, and they're meant to take up space in your resin to make it more lightweight and to save on how much resin you use. But this guy is mostly solid with a couple of big chunks of insulation foam in there to save on space and weight. All right. Thank you, Emily. Here's another one from Danae. Oh, we got a link. Let me grab this URL real quick and copy and paste it. It's an image from DeviantArt. Okay, so here's another one. Danae is planning to make this costume that is pretty cool, and she has a huge shield with a frame of MDF filled with foam. Work? What would you recommend? Tell you what, I would try and vacuum form that. That would be, I would need a big vacuum form table though. But you can actually do a lot of that out of insulation foam. The pink stuff actually right over my shoulder. This is all insulation foam right there. And you could carve a lot of that down. So it's really, really lightweight, easy to work with. And then I would coat it with something like Epsilon, which is an epoxy resin that you would spread all over that. It's safe to put on your foam. It's not going to eat it away. I would put many, many layers, probably like at least 4 layers on there, and then sand it down nice and smooth. You could even do that before you put all that detail in there. So this thing has like this bird looking thing and like these flame looking things on the side. You could do the base shape out of that foam, coat it in that epoxy resin so you have a rigid shell on the outside of it, and then lay down more like sheets of foam or sheets of I would use styrene plastic, or you could even sculpt with like, not Sculpey because you wouldn't be able to put it in the oven, but I would use something like Freeform Sculpt is an epoxy clay that Smooth On sells. You could sculpt that bird thing right on there and stick a jewel in it. That's probably what I would do, because vacuum forming a giant thing like that could be a giant pain. But use foam. Yeah, there you go. Good luck, Danae. That is a really cool costume. If you make that, you let me know. I want to see it. Cool. Let's see. This one comes from Avatar Props. Avatar claims to be a bit of a noob when it comes to painting. Do you have some web or channel to suggest for checking out some good techniques? I mentioned earlier the Stan Winston School. Again, you've got to either subscribe or pay for specific videos, but they have some videos on there that are really fantastic for painting. For example, one of the ones that I purchased recently is one about doing metallic finishes, and it's really, really good. A great example of industry professionals showing how they do what they do. Other than that, go actually, if you go look at the if you go to punishprops.com and look at the store there are a couple of good painting eBooks available. Harrison Cricks has one in there that's really, really good, worth every penny. Actually, if you go to his website right now, I think he's selling it for like $4, which is crazy. Vulpenprops.com. He's doing some crazy sale. Just go buy Harrison's book. Spend $4, get that ebook, and you'll learn everything you need to know. Problem solved. All right. Thank you, Avatar. Let's see here. Gibbs Mail in the chat is asking if I've ever sculpted a mask. Yeah, I did a Handsome Jack mask, and it was literally sculpted out of clay, and it was pretty terrible. Let's see here. don't try this at home. What? I'm going to skip you for now. Jason Lee has a question. Jason Lee wants to know, have fun at San Diego Comic-Con. Okay. Says, is there a season for prop building? Kind of. The lead up, we're kind of in the thick of convention season right now. It's mostly like the summer months. Starting, I would say, in like March, actually. For me, in years past, it's not so much this year, but in years past, all of the commissions I would usually take would lead up to Dragon Con or San Diego Comic-Con, which is a little earlier, or PAX, which is usually the same time as Dragon Con. So that's kind of the season. That's kind of when things get crazy and you're in the shop for like 16 hours a day. Yes. Okay. Sciatic wants to know, do you believe in Sasquatch? Well, I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. Me and Sasquatch, or Squatch, as he likes to be called, we're pals. We're good buddies. But no, I don't believe in Sasquatch. I have not seen enough compelling real evidence. I figure in this day and age, when every cell phone has a freaking camera on it, someone somewhere would have gotten a decent photograph of that guy, right? All right. Don't try this at home wants to know. He's old-fashioned and he still goes with mechanical drawing. If I were to make the jump to computer blueprinting, how much faster do you think it'd be, and what or where do you recommend starting? Judging how it's tough to judge how much faster it would be, because you're going to be really slow right when you start. There are a lot of benefits to drawing your blueprints on like something like SketchUp, which is a good place to start. It's free. Go get the free thing. Watch the videos that they have. Get you up to speed really, really fast. The benefits are when you're done with it, you have a file you can send to anyone that can explain to them in 3 dimensions exactly the thing you want to build. So it's really, really good for collaboration. Really good if you want to share what you've made with a wider audience. So yeah, lots of benefits there. And it's easy to undo. You don't have to use an eraser. And you're talking to this guy who's done a lot of technical and architectural drawing in the past. But as soon as I got my hands on like Mechanical Desktop and AutoCAD and now things like SketchUp, like I did not look back. Erasers are dumb. Let's see in the chat here. Oh, Gibbs Mail says I skipped a bunch of his questions. Let's see. How much does it cost to buy a stone head versus a cast one? Oh, you know what you can do is Monster Makers, I believe. The guys that make Monster Clay. They have a head you can buy. They have a male one. They have a female one. So you go to monstermakers.com and look up sculpting armatures. There's this guy. Boop. There's Alana or Ed, male or female, and it's $50 or $60 for either one. They're totally worth it. If you want to sculpt on there, if you want to do patterning on a head, and you don't want to go get your own face life cast, that's the place to go. Go just buy one of them. I know $65 might seem like a lot. It's not that much for what you get. These things are super duper handy. There you go. Monster Makers. And then Avatar. What's that? Let's see. I'm planning on buying all your books. Good. No credit card at the moment. PayPal. There you go. Either way, it's all really good information. That book that Harrison did on painting is fantastic. Let's see here. Oh, this is a kind of weird off question, but Jason wants to know, what was your job at Microsoft in your previous life? I published video. Anyone use the Xbox Live Video Marketplace? No. Suffice it to say, it was really boring. Video publishing. Whee! Let's see here. Gibbs says that is a great price. He agrees with that head. Totally go check that out, man. Shipping isn't too bad to Canada. That's good. Let's see. Old Gamers Rule, another regular. Hey, how's it going? He says, it's really late, but I need Bill's advice. I've been asked to do the DLT-19 Heavy Blaster from Star Wars A New Hope. Let's look that up. Let's get a picture for everyone. Boop. Images. There you go. Holy crap. Look at that thing. That is a big old gun. Shipping it to the States. Have you ever had a problem shipping gun-type objects to other countries? You know what? Not yet. I know some countries do get finicky about that. When I ship them on the customs form, I usually say like replica prop or prop kit or model kit. I don't usually say this is full of guns, because then you don't want to lie on the customs form, but don't make people think that it's full of firearms. Is the real advice there. But no, I've shipped stuff, a lot of stuff to Canada, Australia, a lot of stuff to many places in Europe, and so far I haven't had any problems sending gun-shaped items to other countries. Shipping stuff to the States shouldn't be a problem. We have no problem with guns over here, so I think you'll be okay. Cool. Let's grab just a couple more questions before we end this thing. Sciatic wants to know, have you ever worked with metal? I've only done a few little things, mostly with aluminum, because I don't have a lot of tools to work with things like steel. I don't have a welder. I don't have a plasma cutter. The lathe I have is a woodworking lathe. I'm not going to be milling any lightsaber handles on that thing. I don't have the tools around to do that, but I have done little things out of aluminum. I've done some etching with chemical etching on metal, which is amazing, using ferric chloride, which is really, really cool. I've done, let's see, what else have I done? A lot of times if you need some structural part of a prop, you want to make it out of metal. And even if it is just aluminum, which is a pretty flimsy metal, it's a lot better than, say, using plastic or wood for that particular thing. I've only been able to get by so much on that using things like, I've got an angle grinder to cut it. I've got a drill press to drill holes in it. That's kind of the limit of what I can do with metal right now. But that's what I've been able to do. A buddy of mine who actually works at Weta now, my buddy Chris, who's a really cool, nice guy. He is an armor smith, kind of why he works at Weta now. And I got to make a little shield. I don't know where it is, but he had a big English wheel. So we took a sheet of, I can't remember. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Will. Yeah, look at that little shield thing, using an English wheel to make the sort of dished out shape on that. So I've done that once. So that was fun. Do you know what kind of metal this is? Is this aluminum, Will?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was a street sign made out of aluminum, and now it's a little bowl. So that's the limit of the metalworking I've done, but I would like to get into that more. Cool. Sanit wants to know, you should make something from The Hobbit, maybe an orc soldier. No, I want to be a dwarf. If I'm going to make something from The Hobbit, I'm going to be a dwarf. I've already started on my dwarf beard. I can't quite braid it yet, but I'm getting there. So he wants to do battle with me. Unfortunately, I won't be doing anything from The Hobbit for Dragon Con. That's too soon. Okay, here's another one. This one's from 14 Mew. Hey, Bill, I'm working on a suit of armor from Fallout. Yeah, Fallout. Woo! I was going to try a combination of techniques. I know that EVA foam is pretty inert, and I was going to lay fiberglass cloth over it and paint on resin. I painted resin over foam before. Any thoughts? It should be okay. We did that with our Draugr helmets. The base was done in EVA foam, and then it was fiberglass to make it rigid. So you should be fine. Yeah, even polyester resin won't eat through EVA. You should be okay. It will eat through insulation foam. That's for damn sure. So don't put it on that. But it should be okay. If you do have any misgivings, use epoxy instead of polyester resin. You'll be okay. But yeah, that'll work. That should totally work. And the nice thing about that is the EVA is flexible, easy to work with, fast, cheap. You can build your base shape and then fiberglass it so it's nice and rigid, and then do some body shopping on top of that. Bondo and laying on other more rigid materials to do your final sculpt. Thank you, 14 Mew. See here, Frodan in the chat wants to know what the optimal material for axes would be. Whatever material you're good with. Earlier, we were talking about possibly making one out of MDF or out of EVA foam. If you're going to carry something around a lot all day at a convention, you want something lightweight and safe. I would recommend making it out of EVA foam. But if you're good at molding and casting, you could make your master out of like wood or sculpt it, and then make a mold and cast it out of any number of materials like urethane plastic resin, or you could even cast it out of a flexible foam or a squishy foam. So it's like a Nerf weapon. Those things are really cool. Yeah, lots of different materials for axes. That's about it. We're getting near the end here. Old Gamers Rule wants to recommend my ebooks and Will's, my shopmate Will, who just gave me this lovely bowl. And Harrison's, he's recommending all of them. They are all available on punishprops.com if folks want to go check out ebooks, especially my favorite, the Foam Smith series, which I think is really cool. And we have print versions available of that. And he says he picked Harrison's book, I'm Painting Up Today. And he says it's a very good buy. Totally is. Totally go check that out. Thank you, Old Gamers Rule. Thank you, chat. Let's see here. Yeah, cool. We got Don't Try This at Home, recommending a tubing bender from Harbor Freight. I've got one of those. It's pretty handy. I think we're going to wrap it up, you guys. Thank you very much for hanging out with me this afternoon. I don't know if we're going to have an episode next week because Wednesday I'm flying to San Diego. If we do have an episode, it'll be earlier in the week. But I'll be jamming to get stuff ready for Comic-Con, so I can't promise if we have an episode. But I will try. I promise I will try to get one out. Again, thank you guys so much for showing up to the show. Your questions are great. And you keep this thing going for me. You guys are awesome. But until next time, I'm out of here. You guys go build some stuff.